So a school in Massachusetts is banning the Odyssey by Homer. Many of you probably read this book as a kid like I did. It's one of the oldest books in Western civilization. It's more than 2,000 years old, and it's been required reading longer than anything else I can think of. And a Massachusetts school is going to ban it. Looks like they already have. Let's read this from the Wall Street Journal. It's by Megan Cox Gurdon, came out 3 days ago. A sustained effort is underway to deny children access to literature. Under the slogan #DisruptTexts, and we'll be looking at that, critical theory ideologues, school teachers, and Twitter agitators are purging and propagandizing against classic texts, everything from Homer to F. Scott Fitzgerald to Dr. Seuss. Their ethos holds that children shouldn't have to read stories written in anything other than the present-day vernacular, especially those, quote, in which racism, sexism, ableism, anti-Semitism, and other forms of hate are the norm, end quote. As young adult novelist Padma Venkatraman writes in School Library Journal, no author is valuable enough to spare. Mrs. Venkatraman instructs, quote, absolving Shakespeare of responsibility by mentioning that he lived at a time when hate-ridden sentiments prevailed risks sending a subliminal message that academic excellence outweighs hateful rhetoric, end quote. The subtle complexities of literature are being reduced to the crude clanking of intersectional power struggles. Thus, Seattle English teacher Evan Shin tweeted in 2018 that he'd, quote, rather die, end quote, than teach the Scarlet Letter, unless Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel is used to fight against misogyny and slut-shaming. Outsiders got a glimpse of the intensity of the #DisruptTexts campaign recently when self-described anti-racist teacher Lorena Germain complained that many classics were written more than 70 years ago. Think of U.S. society before then and the values that shaped the nation afterwards. That is what is in those books. Wow. So we don't even need to read more. That's crazy. Unbelievable. Check this out. They have a website. It's called #DisruptTexts.org. And you know what? I'm completely available and willing to tutor. If this is what sends you over the top, if this is the final straw for you, and your kid or your kids or your kids and your kids' friends need tutoring, let me know, because this is just outrageous. This is one of the saddest stories I've read in 2020, right at the end, too. So this website is written by Tricia Abarvia. She has a website that we'll look at. I haven't explored any of these websites with you, but it looks like it's geared to teachers. This front and center cube, or square, says, in your classroom with these 8 texts. Look at that. #DisruptText in your classroom with these 8 texts. In partnership with #DisruptTexts Learning Guides. These are written by mostly Tricia, but then there's that Lorena Germain girl. She's been writing these as well, too. Wow. So it looks like they have a journal here. Oh, boy. Let's just read what it says right at the beginning. Core principles to disrupt texts. Let me see if I can blow this up a little. Okay. Core principles, #DisruptTexts. Interrogating our biases to understand how they inform our teaching practices. So this is geared to teachers, okay. Centering the authentic voices and lived experiences of people of color. Applying a critical literacy lens to our teaching practices that is anti-racist, anti-colonial, and anti-bias. Working in community with other educators, particularly Black, Indigenous, and educators of color. Wow. So those 4 principles are extremely racist. Like this bottom one. Particularly Black, Indigenous, and educators of color. So, you know, preferring people because of their skin color. That's very racist. This is very, very racist. And then it says, applying a critical literacy lens to our teaching. That sounds like an oxymoron to me. I was going to be a teacher, but I switched my major, but it just seems like if you're applying a lens to anything, you're just disrupting and manipulating the information. You're acting as a middleman when perhaps maybe your role is to just introduce the kids to things, right? Obviously, got to teach them how to read, but, what's the point of having this lens when your student should be discovering the knowledge for themselves? You're there to guide them. You're there to point them in the right direction. So seeing something like applying a critical literacy lens to our teaching practices that is anti-racist, anti-colonial, and anti-bias sounds like brainwashing, programming, because that's what it is. Centering the authentic voices and lived experiences of people of color. The last two words, of color, make it racist. You don't need those. You could just say centering the authentic voices and lived experiences of people. That's what it should say. That's what it said for quite some time when we talk about stuff like this. Adding of color is just a tactic to subvert our country, right? We all knew this in 2019. In 2019, everybody agreed that centering the authentic voices and lived experiences of people was a good principle. But in 2020, they just put of color on it, flash it up, put a little money behind it, bribe some people, and look at it spread like a cancer. So now we just have this preferential treatment of one race. It's exactly what that is, right? And the top one again, interrogating our biases to understand how they inform our teaching practices. So that sounds pretty good. Figured most teachers are so busy, they'll probably read the first one. Right? Keep scrolling. Interrogating our biases to understand how they inform our teaching practices. Well, yeah, sounds good. We should do that. Absolutely. And then you read the other three, and it's just pure communism. Wow. Let's go back. Let me zoom back out. Let's see what these 8 books are. Okay, so the one on the top left is Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Rebay. We're just going to analyze these based on the covers, right? Patron Saints of Nothing. So subliminally, it's already putting Christianity in the same group as nothingness, right? And nothingness is kind of like the background of the whole international socialist belief system, right? They believe in Marx, they believe in Darwin, they believe in social evolution. They believe that the Big Bang somehow happened and that we all come from nothing. So nothing is a extremely important concept in their worldview. And we know it, usually as nihilism. That's what we call it. It's like Nietzschean nihilism. Friedrich Nietzsche. He was a philosopher in the 19th century who was, big into killing God, as he would probably say. He's a guy who coined the phrase, God is dead, right? So, Patron Saints of Nothing, the title alone, I can already tell you what this book is about, right? Or what it's really between the lines is about. It's about killing Christianity. Patron Saints of Nothing. This one on the right, Before the Ever After. It's got a black kid on it. It's got to be racist. It's got to be about race, not racist. That's not what I meant. Okay. We already know about the principles, I think. Unless these are different. Okay, these are different principles. So the 4 core principles to DisruptTexts. Oh no, these are them. But they just changed it. They changed the wording of it completely. That's kind of weird. Oh, look at AntiRacism Baby by Ibram X. Kendi is one of the books. Isn't that great? Wow, look at this, you guys. There's a page for each book. So, AntiRacism Baby is by Ibram X. Kendi. We know a lot about him. From the National Book Award-winning author of Stamped from the Beginning and How to Be an Anti-Racist comes a 9x9 picture book that empowers parents and children to uproot racism in our society. Get them while they're young. We've actually looked at that on the show before. Oh, look at it. And then it tells considerations for teachers. Before starting AntiRacism Baby, we encourage educators to interrogate their own biases. We know, both from current events and from long-standing social injustices, that racism has not gone away. It has only evolved. See, what did we just talk about? We just talked about social Darwinism, right? It's the water we all swim in, the primordial soup that life began in. See, all this is very thought out. Thus, we must do personal, internal work so that we stop perpetuating this system. Wow. In his adult book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, his adult book. So this is the kid's book, but he also makes a big boy book. In his adult book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, Dr. Kendi argues that we are either racist or anti-racist. There is no in-between. So like, that's already such a fallacy. I can't even believe any teacher would go farther with that paragraph. Any teacher who doesn't see through this right away is an idiot. I'm sorry. And, I know teachers that don't see through this and, friends in my life, but sorry, that's idiotic if you don't see through this. It's bad. There's more. If you want to be successful, however, you have to do the work on yourself first. Below are some ideas to consider. How we've been socialized to understand our own racial identity. How we've been socialized to understand the racial identity of others. Our understanding of racist practices and policies function in our own lives. Developing language around race, racism, and anti-racism. Oh, this is so cringy. Key concepts and vocabulary. These are words all featured in the book or present in ideas. Depending on the grade and ability level of your students, you may want to consider one of the following approaches to exploring vocabulary with them. Look at this. Let's read these. 1. Let's read them together. 1. Race. 2. Racism. 3. Anti-racist, anti-racism. 4. Transform. 5. Neutrality. 6. Equity. 7. Equality. 8. Policies. 9. Access. 10. Proclaim. 11. Diverse. 12. Culture. 13. Confess. Confess, you goddamn Christians. 14. Disrupt. 15. Curious. 16. Overcome. 17. Transcend. Wow. There's a lot to this. This is well thought out. The content's awful, but these people put a lot of work into this. It just keeps going. Dude, this is 104 pages. This is literally... Teachers just copy this, okay? Speaking from my generation, let me tell you what I've experienced with going to 3 different colleges with people all throughout my generation and still going to school with them. They will literally just use this 100% because they'd rather be on their phone or they'd rather be socializing or they'd rather be doing something else because they have no attention span because they've been programmed to be that way. I'm sorry, but my generation's completely failing in the teaching. I've never met someone my age who is an unbiased teacher, just a normal person. All of them are in the beast system with Instagram and social media and leftism and the mainstream, and they believe everything and they don't even have the ability to critically think. So they would just take this whole 104 pages and, I don't know, cover it in 4 weeks, and they don't have to worry about it because it's all here. Do you understand that? The international socialists are writing the curriculum, not just the ideas of what to teach, not just the book recommendations. They are writing the entire curriculum of our public schooling. And we looked at, remember those leaked documents? It was like 2 gigabytes of thousands and thousands of pages, and it came from the National Educators Association, I think the biggest teachers union. And I still have it somewhere on my computer, but it was all the same stuff. It was thousands of pages of this. Oh, man. And we all put so much, we're taught to depend on our teachers, right? Depend on the public school system. All these teachers are heroes, they're frontline workers, they're great people. Meanwhile, they can't be terminated because of their strength in the unions. And they're teaching this, and nobody's paying attention to it. Wow. I mean, what's this one about? Let's just stop at the next book. Oh, perfect. Patron Saints of Nothing. About the book. When he finds out his cousin Jun has been killed as part of Philippine President Duerte's campaign of extrajudicial killings, 17-year-old Jay Reguero is devastated. However, neither his own family nor Jun's will talk about his cousin's death or answer Jay's questions. But when Jay gets a mysterious message from someone that his cousin was innocent, Jay decides to travel to the Philippines to find out what happened. Patron Saints of Nothing will appeal to students as the novel inspires them to consider questions around family, loyalty, identity, truth, and ultimately that our responsibility is to ourselves and to each other. Considerations for teachers and students. Consider using Patron Saints of Nothing to pair with or replace any coming-of-age text you might have in your curriculum. Wow. Think about the coming of age text that we all read. Catcher in the Rye, A Separate Piece, stuff like that. Replace it. Don't read it. Don't read this book, teacher, but replace it. Consider this. Consider replacing it. We believe that Rebet's novel offers students deep possibilities for exploring similar terrain and issues as traditionally canonical texts. For example, consider pairing Rebet's novel with or replacing texts such as Catcher in the Rye, To Kill a Mockingbird, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and The Outsiders. What did I just say? I just said Catcher in the Rye. I swear to God I didn't even look at it. Wow. So, just replace it, guys. Don't even read it, teacher. Just replace all these important classics that have been there for a while. Just go ahead and replace it, all 4 of those, with the patron saints of nothing. Unbelievable. And look at, likewise, the patron saints of nothing can be paired with Angie Thomas's The Hate You Give, or On the Come Up, to help students unpack issues of justice and social responsibility. Khaled Hosseini's The Kite Runner, to explore issues related to grief and familial obligation, and Chimamanda Ngozi's Purple Hibiscus, to examine themes around government corruption and finding one's voice. This is so disgusting. Before starting Patron Saints of Nothing, we recommend working with students to consider how their identities and experiences may inform their reading experience. For some students, this book may be the first time that they have read about a Philippines American. What is a Philippines? A Filipino experience, or that takes place in the Philippines. Considerations for teachers and students. There's your communist sun symbol, right? This is so bad. And it's a whole curriculum for it. You can get, this looks like weeks of work if you create exercises and homework around this. It gets crazy. Look at this one. Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. About the book. Just look at the cover. Juliet Milagros Palente. Well, let me just say first that this is all manufactured. None of this came out of nowhere. This was injected into the minds of young people through social media, through programming, through brainwashing, basically. And they've created this whole ethos of social justice. Like, the reason why girls dress up like this, like on the cover of this book, is because their cell phones told them to, and celebrities told them to, and teachers told them to. This is all manufactured, and this is all subversion. This is how a country gets subverted from the inside out. This is international communism's playbook 101. It's plain as day. It's extremely obvious. So they want to pull at your heartstrings with these stories, with this whole idea of people being oppressed and there being this racist, patriarchal, misogynistic system. None of it's true. None of it's true in America today. None of it. This is how the strongest country in the world gets subverted. Our enemy's been doing this for over a century. It's the same playbook. It's just crazy. Crazy. So let's see how they pull at the heartstrings here. Juliet is a self-proclaimed closeted Puerto Rican baby dyke from the Bronx. I'm not even kidding. Like, that's literally what it says. Juliet Palante is a self-proclaimed closeted Puerto Rican baby dyke from the Bronx. I didn't even read that before that little monologue I just gave. This is exactly what I mean. This is laughable. This is pathetic. Pathetic that people fall for this. I don't even know what to say. Let's keep reading. Only she's not so closeted anymore after coming out to her family the night before flying to Portland, Oregon to intern with her favorite feminist writer. What's sure to be a life-changing experience. Portland, Oregon, to intern with her favorite feminist writer. Oh my goodness. And when Juliet's coming out crashes and burns, she's not sure her mom will ever speak to her again. But Juliet has a plan, sort of. Her internship with legendary author Harlow Brisbane, the ultimate authority on feminism, women's bodies, and other gay-sounding stuff, is sure to help her figure out this whole Puerto Rican lesbian thing. Except Harlow's white and not from the Bronx, and she definitely doesn't have all the answers. In a summer bursting with queer brown dance parties, a sexy fling with a motorcycling librarian, and intense explorations of race and identity, Juliet learns what it means to come out to the world, to her family, and to herself. I'll leave you with this. If you need tutoring, I'm available. I'm still not employed, so bring it on. This is so sad. Between taking away the Odyssey and what we just read, my goodness, if you have kids, if I had kids, I don't think I could send them to public school ever again. This is who is behind this website, DisruptTexts, this hashtag, this movement. Her name is Tricia Ibarvia. She's one of the people behind it. She's a reader, a writer, and a teacher. I haven't checked this out yet, but let's see what she's about. Let's read. Oh boy. Hello there. My name is Tricia Ibarvia, and since 2001, I have been teaching high school English outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I serve as department chair and currently teach American literature and AP English language and composition. As an educator, I believe that developing a love of learning let's see where she says she's an anti-racist. It's got to be somewhere. There it is. Found it. In addition to teaching, I am also the faculty co-advisor for the senior class and the faculty sponsor of our school's SOAR group, Students Organizing for Anti-Racism. Of course it's there, right? There it is again. Educators of color is critical to anti-racist teaching. Guys, these people are making a ton of money for doing this. These people have sold their soul. These are godless, insane, evil people. Anybody that's teaching this is getting paid a lot of money secretly to be teaching this. Or they're really, really dumb. There are some that are super, super dumb. Shame on them. It's unbelievable the level of ignorance Americans have. But a lot of them are being paid to do this. A lot of them truly have no soul. They don't have a soul. That's what we're dealing with. Wow. And they always have really black eyes, like Joe Biden, when they don't have a soul. Something happens to them, right? They do. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, this lady. They always have very dark eyes. It's scary. But I'll leave you with that. My email is truemediaportland@gmail.com if you need a tutor. Thank you guys for watching. What a sad, sad day. Let's hope next year's a little bit better.